Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. I'm your host, the Real Gerald Quinn. Recording this on a Tuesday. We are in the midst, of course, the NBA playoffs. A lot going on in the world of sports. Obviously, the hockey playoffs have started. We had, coming off the Masters last week, and now we're in, again, the NBA playoffs started this past week. A lot in music, hip hop, and we'll get into a little bit of Taylor Swift. But we're going to begin with the NBA playoffs. And right now, again, keep this in mind. About time you hear this podcast, all the game twos will be completed. So you are going to be ahead of me. Those of you listening to this podcast will be ahead of me as far as the game twos being completed. So I want to just keep that in mind. Of course, 3 game twos tonight. Minnesota, Phoenix are playing as we speak. Minnesota, Phoenix, Indiana, Milwaukee, and of course the Clippers hosting the Dallas Mavericks. Home teams are undefeated, which has not happened this far into the playoffs. You have to go back to 2013 for all the home teams to be undefeated this far into the playoffs, in the first round. So you had a couple close calls last night that almost broke that little streak. It was not enough. So before we get into any games, the Lakers, Phoenix, Dallas are 0-6 as of right now. Certainly that could change tonight with terms of Phoenix and Dallas. But all those teams are 0-6 as of right now. What those teams have in common, they all have dynamic duos. Okay. Got LeBron, Anthony Davis, Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, who won Most Improved today. And of course, Durant, Booker. I won't include Bill into that as a trio, so I'll just say Durant and Booker because they have a big 2, not a big 3. And of course, Dallas, Luka, and Kyrie. All those teams lost, and they lost because the other teams that they played had more balance in terms of their role players. Guys like Jason Hart, Naz Reid, Michael Porter Jr., Zubac, Lou Dort with his defense. And a couple of years ago, we were talking to Robert Sapp. We were in the midst of Brooklyn. It might even been actually last year, 2022, 2023. We were in the midst of Brooklyn just completely falling apart. Kyrie and KD both get traded. They both get traded. We don't have to relitigate that situation, but that to me signified that there was that there was a shift in the NBA. Then you see the new apron with the collective bargaining agreement that's going to make it harder for teams almost impossible for teams to for you to stack your teams without a severe penalty in terms of luxury tax. And also, if you go top heavy, you're going to have no depth for the most part. If you go super top heavy, like Phoenix top heavy, like Brooklyn top heavy with Kyrie Harden and Durant, unless somebody takes a pay cut. In 2024, these guys are in the prime of their careers, or even younger players get on that second contract, that extension, they're not taking pay cuts. So you have to have a complete roster. Your players from 3 to 7 or 3 to 8 have to be able to produce. Have to. I mean, the Knicks are winning a series, and we'll get into more in depth with that series. The Knicks are winning a series, are up 2-0 with their best player shooting 29% from the field. A guy who's going to finish probably top 5 in MVP and make first, second, maybe outside chance of making first team All-NBA in Jalen Brunson. You got to have balance. You have to have balance. You have to have balanced scoring. You have to have role players now in the playoffs are more important than they've ever been. And they've always been important. I mean, we can go back to 2000s, over the course of 2000s, or look at guys like Robert Ory, Derek Fisher, even going with the Miami Heat, Mario Chalmers, Mike Miller, guys like that. You could point to some role players helping, a number of players helping teams win championships. But now in 2024, they are essential. You have to have quality role players, not just guys that take up minutes. No, guys that are going to be called upon to produce. I'm not just talking about just points. I mean, Hartenstein from the Knicks has been all over the place for terms of defensively, and has gotten some big time offensive rebounds. They got an offensive rebound that saved the game for the Knicks last night. So again, a note to teams. Now, note to teams in terms of a note to general managers, owners, in terms of how to build your team. Yes, you have to have a top 10, top 5 type player to win a championship. Absolutely, without question. But you better surround that player with a balance, with a balanced roster. Because teams are absolutely getting exposed in this year's playoffs. And again, it did not take me long. It has not taken long to see that, to figure that out. It really hasn't. It is stood out big time. And there's a transition happening from old to young. Anthony Edwards. We know what Denver is, but there is happening right now in the midst of like Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Joel Embiid, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. Those guys have yet to win a playoff game. That's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. These younger up-and-coming players, these stars, have no fear of the old guard. They just don't. They have zero fear. They respect LeBron. They respect Joel Embiid. They respect Kevin Durant. They have zero fear of him. So we are in the midst of a shift in the NBA, a transition in the NBA, and it's pretty exciting, to be honest with you. This is going to happen as these players, as a KD ages, as a LeBron ages, as these guys head out. Steph Curry not in the playoffs. So this weekend told us a lot about where the NBA is at and the direction that it's going in. So let's get to, I'll talk, I'm not going to go over every series because there's still some basketball to play, of course, with these game twos. We'll get to the Philly game, the Philly series. It's been a fun series to watch so far, to be honest with you. So Philly easily could be up 2-0. At worst, they should be up. They should be tied. The series should be tied at 1. In regards to what happened last night, they have nobody to blame but themselves. You absolutely wasted a great Tyrese Maxey game. You wasted a 30-point effort from Joel Embiid, who was out there gutting it out. You can't blow a 5-point lead with 47 seconds left, 42 seconds left. I understand now. Again, the report came out, the officials' report came out, 2-minute report, in the game report came out. It said that Maxey was fouled twice. And it also said that Nick Nurse should have been granted a timeout. That's horrible officiating. There's no way around it. You can't have 3 missed calls, 2 missed foul calls, and a timeout. That's rough. I can defend the missed foul calls. I can defend that. Fouls get missed all the time. I can't defend, and that was the most egregious to me. And I mentioned it on the text thread. The missed timeout, the officials missing the timeout, was the most egregious thing in my opinion. Even more so than missing the foul calls. And Nick Nurse came out and basically said that the official, he called the timeout. The official stared at him and ignored him. Can't miss that if you're an official. Even with that said, Kyle Lowry, you make a free throw. DiVincenzo's three just ties the game. Philadelphia has the ball with a chance to win or take the lead in a tie ball game. You keep, you get a defensive rebound. DiVincenzo doesn't get a second look at a 3-point shot. Period. So there were things that Philadelphia could have done that could have won that game. And Joel Embiid, again, this is why Joel Embiid is a horrible leader. Can't go in the locker room with your head down as if the series is over and then say this why I know that, players need a cooling off period. Like, you can't talk to a player like right after a game. He says that loss was worse than the Game 7 Kawhi Leonard shot. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. That the Kawhi Leonard shot possibly cost you a trip to the conference finals, which would have been your only conference finals appearance ever in his career. That's Game 7 of a second round series versus a series ending shot versus you losing Game 2 on the road, being down 2-0 and having two games back in Philly. Like, there's really no comparison. Like, the two don't equate. Yeah, you're gonna compare a game-ending series shot, a series-ending shot, to losing a game on some bad calls. And by the way, you're down 2-0, but you have games 3 and 4 at home. So look, some guys are just not leaders. Like, he's not a leader. Like, we saw in the 2021 playoffs when he threw Ben Simmons under the bus in the press conference along with Doc Rivers. He's a horrible leader. He's a great player, horrible leader. Two could be mutually exclusive without question. Tyrese Maxey has been the best player in this series, though. He's been tremendous in this series, playing great defense on Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson on Tyrese Maxey shooting like 2 for 11. It's like 2 for 11 with being guarded by Tyrese Maxey. He single-handedly almost won them the game. Single-handedly, basically, along with Embiid, basically kept them and had them in the lead in both games. And that's why I couldn't get on him too much about what happened last night, because he's been their best player and he's been the best player in this series. But you gotta give the Knicks credit. The Knicks are just tougher than the Sixers. They are mentally tougher than the Sixers. They've been more physical than the Sixers have. The offensive rebounding has killed the Sixers in this series, but the series is far from over. Like I said, either one of these games could have went either way. As far as Sixers easily could be up 2-0. So it's definitely not a time to panic. And Nick Nurse is a coach who's been here before. Remember, 2019, he's with Toronto. They were down 2-0 in a conference final to Milwaukee, who is a much better team than what these Knicks are right now, to be honest with you. And they won 4 straight. Now, again, he had Kawhi Leonard, who, had one of the great playoff runs in the last decade on this team and had a bunch of veterans. That team is that team. You go back and look at that team. That team is underrated and is aging well as far as the history books. I know they only won 1 ring, but that team was talented. They were more than just Kawhi Leonard. Like, they had a lot of veteran talent. They had a lot of tough guys, defensive guys. That was a very good Toronto team. Now, again, they don't get the credit they deserve because of the injuries to Golden State with Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant. And we know that, Golden State wins that series if both of those guys are healthy. But still, that was a very talented Toronto team. So Nick Nurse has been there before. He understands as a coach what it's like. I don't think to come back from down 2-0. I don't think he won't panic. Neither should the Sixers. They're right there. The room for error in the series, though, is small for the Sixers, because right now they don't have a third scorer. They don't have a third scorer right now. They need a third scorer to help out Embiid and also, of course, Tyrese Maxey. So we will see what happens in game. You have game 4 on Thursday. Game 4 on Friday, so they get a couple of days off. They will get a couple of days off. We'll see what happens. It's been a fun series to watch. Of course, the New York crowd is what has been great, as you expect. And the Knicks are just a tough, hard-nosed team, easy to root for because they play so hard. I will say this: they need to get Jalen Brunson going. Even if they can survive this series, you're not. You can't shoot. I mean, you can't live by. You're not going to be able to survive on him shooting like 30%. So need to get him going from that standpoint. If they are to move forward, I would even say even to win this series. To be honest with you, I think Philly will have a big game 3, and this series will come down to game 4. I think Philly wins game 3 easily, and game 4 will be a white knuckler and go right down to the wire. As far as the Lakers Nuggets, again, another exciting game. Had a great night of basketball last night with those 2 games going right down to the wire. And frankly, as a Laker fan, I saw this coming. I mean, I saw this coming from a mile away. It's like watching a horror movie where you know what's going to happen at the end. Despite the fact that the Lakers were up 15 at half, you knew Denver was going to make a run, and you knew Denver was going to make a run, number one. But number two, who was going to give LeBron help in the fourth quarter? And the Lakers, see, with the Nuggets are so comfortable with playing against the Lakers that really no lead is safe, especially in Denver. They're great at home. They only lost 1 game last year in the playoffs. They are at ease when they're playing the Lakers. There was never a doubt, despite the fact that they were struggling, that they were going to come back and win that game. Once they cut it to 10 at the end of 3 quarters, like I said to myself, this is a wrap. This game is over. The Lakers had a number of bad possessions in the third quarter. They at one point missed like 8 straight shots. And who do I blame? I blame Anthony Davis. Game 1, LeBron has 19 in the first half, right? Has nothing. I mean, did next to nothing in the second half. Was completely exhausted in the fourth quarter. So LeBron, being the basketball genius that he is, says, okay, let me get Anthony Davis going. Let me get D'Angelo Russell cooking. Because D'Angelo Russell had a bad game 1. So LeBron has 7 assists in the first half, only took like 6 shots. Anthony Davis has a huge first half, had 24 points. D'Angelo Russell has 18. At one point, Anthony Davis was 13 for 14 from the field. Anthony Davis finishes the game with 32 points, only 8 in the second half, and nothing, and I mean nothing, in the fourth quarter. He was 0 for 1 in the fourth quarter. While in contrast, you had Jamal Murray and Djokovic dominate the fourth quarter, in particular Murray. Of course, Murray hits the big shot. The guy who made the biggest shot in the game was Michael Porter Jr., though. Michael Porter Jr. is that 3 to tie the game. First of all, the save by Aaron Gordon to prevent a turnover. That was a great play that might have been a game-saving play. They were down by 3 at that point. He saves the ball, gets to the Michael Porter Jr. Michael Porter Jr. makes a big-time 3. And Michael Porter Jr. has killed the Lakers in this series, shooting 57% and averaging like 20, almost 21 a game. They've had zero answer for him during the course of this series. But that team just knows how to win. They know how to win, and the reason why they're the favorite to win the championship is because they have 2 guys that are 2 of the best. They have 2 of the best closers in the world in the playoffs right now on the same team, in Jokic and Jamal Murray. Jokic dominated that fourth quarter without even scoring double figures in points. I think he only had 7 points in the fourth quarter, but with he gets you any shot. He gets the Nuggets the best shots out of any player in the league. They get the best shots out of any team because of him. Period. And the difference in this series, I said the Lakers had any chance in the series, they had to control Jamal Murray. Well, they frankly, through 2 games, have done an excellent job on Jamal Murray. But again, Michael Porter Jr. has made up for that slack. While the Lakers basically has been AD, LeBron, and basically that's it. Like it was AD, LeBron in game 1 with little help. This time you had AD, LeBron, and you had some help from D'Angelo Russell, but you had a no-show from AD in the second half, in particular in the fourth quarter. And here's the thing: LeBron is not at the point in his career where he is a great number 2. He's no longer a number 1 on a championship team. That's where you need Anthony Davis to be. If the Lakers had any chance in the series, Anthony Davis would have to outplay Jokic. For 2.5 quarters, he was outplaying Jokic for 2.5 quarters when they built up that lead. It's got up to 20 at one point. But he is not a number 1. Period. He's not a number 1. You need to beat a Jokic, to beat Denver, you need a number 1. They have a big joker, no pun intended, in Jokic, a little joker in Jamal Murray, a spade in Michael Porter Jr., a spade in Aaron Gordon, and a spade in Kentavious Caldwell Pope. They have 5 spades. The Lakers have 3 in the possible. 2 little jokers in LeBron and Anthony Davis, a spade in Austin Reeves, and a possible in D'Angelo Russell. So 2, basically 3 in the possible versus 5 solid spades. Give me the 5 spades all day. Lakers have now lost 10 straight to Denver. That is the most games the Lakers have lost to opponent in their history. We're talking about 17 championships, like 33 finals appearances. They've never lost that many games to any franchise ever. 10 straight over the last 18 months. You cannot tell me that they are not in the Lakers' head. They are clearly in their head. I don't believe the Lakers believe that they can beat the Nuggets. And by the way, I don't want to hear any complaining. There was a lot of complaining about officiating. Knicks had some. The Sixers had some legitimate complaints. Lakers didn't have a leg to stand on. Lakers have been getting calls the last 2 years. No one has shot more free throws or attempted more free throws than the Lakers. They've attempted and shot more free throws than any team in basketball. Period. By far. The Lakers. Last night I watched that game. I did not, and I'm a Laker fan. Not one time was I thinking about an official. Or wow, this is a poorly officiating game. No. So I don't want to hear Darvin Ham. I don't want to hear LeBron. Who wasn't even, by the way, LeBron was not even provoked by the reporter to complain about the officials. The press conference was almost over. They were down probably to the last question, and matter of fact, he didn't even answer the question. He was asked a question. Forgot what the question was, but he went straight to the officials. And that was that. Darvin Ham comes in talking about the officials. No, nobody want to that is not absolutely not an excuse. That's not a mentality. That's a loser mentality. You're down 2-0. You have 2 games at LA. Go out there and win games 3 and 4. That's absolutely a loser mentality, coming in immediately and talking about the officiate. Lakers had about 6 or 7 straight horrible possessions in the third quarter. Yeah, Denver's defense tightened up a bit, but the Lakers' possessions in the third quarter were horrendous in terms of shot selection. You have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, you should get better shots than what they were getting. So I consider the Lakers winning 1 game in the series. I don't see this series going past 5 games. And certainly a sweep is on the table. Denver hates the Lakers. They detest the Lakers. They dread the Lakers. They want to stop the Lakers. You can tell. They get up to play the Lakers. Everybody coming into this series, a lot of people coming into this series saying, oh, well, Denver, this could be dangerous. Denver was licking their chops to play the Lakers. Trust me. They detest the Lakers, not personally, but in terms of competing and wanting to destroy them, they absolutely want to stop a mud hole in the Lakers' asses, and that's what they're doing so far, and that's what they have been doing for the past 2 years. And don't think, trust me, don't think that they don't think about that 2020 bubble when they lost them in 5 games. So again, every game is going to be the same to me. Lakers will get off to good starts. They might have double-digit leads, but Denver will walk them down in the fourth quarter and out-execute them in the fourth quarter and find a way to win it. That's how every game was last season in the postseason, in the conference finals. That's how a few of their regular season games have been over the past couple of years. So it's been the same story. I mean, it's been like Groundhog Day with these Denver Laker games. Period. So we're gonna go around the playoffs. Won't get too much in depth into these games over the weekend. So just a couple of thoughts on a few of these series. Boston, Miami. I was not impressed with Boston whatsoever, and I'm gonna tell you why. We know Boston can shoot the basketball, can make threes, can get hot. They were 22, I believe, 22 of 49 from 3-point range. They win by 20. I don't care about how many threes Boston can make. Can you score? Can you score the basketball? Can you win games, close games, when you're not making threes? Can you get to the line? Can you, like I said, can you get to the line? Can you win a game? Can Boston win a game 98-91 or 102-96? When those threes are going in, everything looks great. Boston looks like the greatest team ever. Again, I thought that game shouldn't even been that close. Miami is dog food right now. Like they are absolute. Even with Jimmy Butler, they should have destroyed Miami. They did that game again. We know Miami has no chance in this series, and I think Boston will sweep Miami. But Miami's inept right now. They're just not very good. And I love Erik Spoelstra as a coach; he's great, best coach in the league. But Boston, I'm not gauging Boston by how they play against Miami as far as winning the series. I want to see Boston be able to win games with execution, win games without their talent. They won that game just strictly based on talent. That's not going to win a championship, and that's the ultimate. That's not going to beat the Denver Nuggets if they play the Nuggets. To be honest with you, that's not going to win it. Like that could beat the Miami Heat. That will beat the Miami Heat. But we're talking about, this is a Boston team that's championship or bust. Anything less than a championship is a failure, period. I'm going to come out and say it. This team doesn't win a championship. They're going to have to rethink what their organization, how they're moving from a philosophical standpoint, period. Not break up the team, not start trading people, but rethink how they play basketball in a real way if they don't win a championship this year. They have the best roster in the sport. Denver is the favorite because Denver has the best player and Denver executes at a high level in the fourth quarter. But this Boston, make no mistake about it, has the best roster in the sport, and they should win a championship this year, period. Point blank, they're going to have an easy road to get to the finals. As easy as roads as you can possibly have with the Eastern Conference being in shambles. Everything is set up so they should be well rested when they're in the finals. But I'm telling you right now, I was not impressed with how they play against Miami. They kind of were toying with Miami, allowing Miami to make these comebacks, and again, they are far too dependent on the 3-point shot. All those step back threes, step back jump shots. Those are not high percentage shots. It looks great when they go in, but a step back three is not a high percentage shot. That's probably the lowest percentage shot in all of basketball. A step back three, 23 to 25 footer. I want to see Boston getting to the line consistently. I want to see Boston, look at Denver last night. So Denver, against a much superior opponent when you compare the Lakers versus Miami, Denver shoots, I'll pull it up here. Denver for this series is only shooting 30% as a team from the 3-point line. So again, Boston, but they pound you in the paint. They get points in the paint, and again, they know how to score. Besides shooting, like they know how to generate offense without making a ton of 3-point shots. They should again. They're only shooting 30%, 30 in the in this series. Last night, Denver shot Denver has so this is what Denver does to you. They have 54 points in the paint. They outscored the Lakers 54-38 in the paint. Okay. Um Again, as a team, Denver last night was only 8 for 34 from the 3-point line. Now they went to the line 17 times. They made 15. That's efficient. That's great. But they they only made 8 threes, and they were 8 for 34 from the 3-point line. They still found a way to win. That's like them. The Boston Celtics need to find other ways to win besides the 3-point shot. Right now, I haven't seen it from the Boston Celtics. I've seen them overwhelm people with the 3-point shot and have all these blowouts. So again, I'm not like I just wasn't impressed with Boston. And again, it mainly due to the opponent. They're not like Miami is just not going to test them. Miami is not going to be a good test, and the only major test that they're going to get more than likely if Milwaukee can get to the conference finals and they can face off against a healthy Giannis. That would be the only major test they can get. They will have possibly before the finals. Other than that, I don't see them having a major test moving forward. To be perfectly honest with you, until they get to the finals. As far as Dallas and the Clippers, I thought Dallas had the most disappointing performance of the weekend. Even more disappointed in Indiana because I don't have any high. Indiana doesn't have a top 5 player and a future Hall of Famer in Kyrie Irving. So I didn't have high expectations for Indiana. Coming into the playoffs, Dallas was playing as well as any team in basketball. You're playing against a team without their best player, a top 75 player, a 2-time Finals MVP. You're playing against a team that has been shaky in the postseason. It has their own demons in the postseason, and you went out there and just got embarrassed. I mean, absolutely embarrassed. They're playing like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Dallas is playing like it was a Wednesday in January. I put this on Luka. I put this on Jason Kidd, Kyrie Irving, but mainly Luka and Jason Kidd. They're the leaders of that team. Luka's the franchise player, so I put this on those two. That team, they were not ready to play, point blank. And I never thought that Dallas could win a championship this year. I did think that they could possibly make a run to the conference finals, not the NBA finals, and an outside chance of making the NBA finals. But the way they looked on Sunday, that team looked awful. They looked awful, and it really was a unprofessional effort by them, like in a real way. Like you're not supposed to come out in a playoff game and play like that in a playoff game against a Clipper team that we know can be dangerous without their best player. We've watched the Clippers in the past. We watched the Clippers in 2021 get to a conference finals without Kawhi Leonard after he got hurt in the Utah series. That was the last postseason where Paul George had a great postseason. And then we know they have a lot of depth due to Clippers. Give the Clippers credit. Ty Lue, coach circles around Jason Kidd. Clippers had, Harden had a big first half. Westbrook had a lot of energy. Paul George played better in the second half and made some big shots. But, again, allowing Ivica Zubac to have 20 and 10, you got to be kidding me. And again, Dallas's roster past Luke and Kyrie, little thin, very top heavy with those two. Clippers, of course, have a ton of depth. Now, as far as Kawhi goes, who knows when Kawhi is going to come back? I'll believe it when I see it. I will absolutely believe it when I see it. I still think this is going to probably be, regardless of Kawhi coming back or not, I think this is probably going to be a 7-game series. If Kawhi doesn't come back, I still favor Dallas to to get their shit together and find a way to win the series. But they were the biggest disappointment this weekend. Not that I had championship hopes with Dallas, but I just expected them to really let the Clippers know you can't beat us without Kawhi. And that was the biggest. You see, losing a road game, game one road game, is not a big deal, right? The series doesn't start till home team wins. Okay, that's the old adage in the NBA. You lose to a team without their best player, they have a belief that they can win the series without Kawhi. You wanted to send a psychological message to the Clippers. Hey, you better hope he gets healthy, or you have no chance. Instead, now they're like, we could beat y'all. We could beat this team. Yeah, we definitely have more than a puncher's chance to beat this team. So it becomes psychological warfare from that standpoint. Oklahoma City, New Orleans, I was extremely impressed with Oklahoma City. I've seen a ton of young teams in their first playoff game cough it up and find a way to lose. Oklahoma City did not play well in this game. New Orleans, scrappy, undermanned with no Zion, of course. But you got Shea SGA, who's going to probably finish runner-up for the MVP. Have a big fourth quarter, had a big game. Lou Dort was tremendous defensively. And, Chet Holmgren chipped in, had a great defensive game with 5 blocks. But I give because Oklahoma City did not play well in this game. They looked nervous. They looked like a team. They looked like the youngest number 1 seed of all time in this game. And they got to go through their look. They got, there are no skipping steps in the NBA. They got to go through, their rites of passage and apprenticeship. But I was very impressed. Again, I've seen a lot of teams lose that game. So for them to come out there and find a way to win that game was impressive. Orlando, Cleveland, probably the series that I probably care about the least, to be honest with you. Listen, Cleveland has just better offensive players. Like Orlando does not have a lot of offense once you get past Banchero, who's going to be a superstar in this league. This guy is like 25-5 in his first 2 seasons. He's going to be an absolute perennial all-star. It has a chance. I'm not going to say MVP. I'm going to hold the brakes on that, but has a chance certainly to be an All-NBA, make the All-NBA team in a couple times in his career. Orlando just can't. Orlando just does not have enough offense. So I still think that they will go home and get at least 1 game from Cleveland. I wouldn't be shocked if they tied the series. I'm not high on Cleveland at all, whatsoever. But Cleveland more than likely is going to win this series. Rap wars is still ongoing. We had a very interesting weekend, to say the least, in the world of hip hop. You had Kanye, you had Drake dropping another track, which featured AI voices of Tupac and Snoop, and you had Kanye dropping a remix to Like That. Here's what I'll say. Okay, first of all, we're gonna rank, play a little game. We're gonna rank, and you had, of course, Chris Brown just destroying Quavo. Quavo tried to come back with a track on Sunday. It's like, nah, it was horrible, to say the least. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rank the tracks that came out so far. If I'm ranking the tracks that came out so far, you will know why this battle has been an embarrassment to hip hop. Number 1, Chris Brown, Weakest Link. I have number 2, Kanye, Like That remix. I have 3, Rick Ross, Champagne Moments. Kendrick's verse, Like That verse. Now again, you say, well, how do you have Kendrick that low? Kendrick's was a verse. So I have to give more credit to a song than a verse. Okay. 5, Drake's Dropping Give Me 50. And 6, Drake's AI tailor made. No classics, no classics whatsoever. And as much as I've been fascinated by by this kind of like Avengers and rap rumbles, Royal Rumble, so to speak, if it's not producing classic, timeless music, then it really it's almost like it's what wrestling. It's almost just like something to just that's just getting attention. And what you're seeing now is everybody is trying to get a piece of the pie. Like in the old days, you would never have someone outside the genre dropping a track during a rap beef between two rappers of the caliber of Kendrick and Drake. There was no one dropping a diss track with Nas and Jay during the time that Nas and Jay was dropping theirs. If they did, it didn't matter and nobody cared. Especially somebody again from R&B. You had Chris Brown dropping a track during this. And Chris, again, I understand Chris Brown can't stand Quavo. They hate each other. But he did. This was marketing as well for Chris Brown. This was like, oh, let me get in on this, because let me get in on this rap beef wave that is, and get some more, some more not clicks and likes, but some more attention and record sales for myself. Why not? It's great marketing. Why not? Everybody else is getting involved in it. So at this point, the only two people I want to hear from, to be honest with you, are Drake and Kendrick. This is where Drake fucked up from a strategic standpoint. He drops Drop and Give Me 50. Okay. It was an okay track at best, average at best, but still he responded to everybody, including Kendrick. Fine. People are looking for you to respond. You did respond. Just wait and shut the fuck up. Like, to drop a AI song with Tupac, using Tupac and Snoop Dogg's voice, I don't give a shit about AI. AI doesn't belong in hip hop to me, in a hip hop battle. And you heard reports about Drake having a 9-figure deal with an AI company, which is fine. You know what? He make all the money that you can make. I'm not going to knock Drake for picking up, picking up a 9-figure bag. But can we leave the AI out of this battle? And the bottom line is, you're not going to Nana Boo Boo Kendrick Lamar. You're not going to bully Kendrick, put peer pressure on Kendrick Lamar to drop a track to come back. Kendrick will drop what he wants to drop. It's that simple. Kendrick doesn't give a shit about what we think in regards to his legacy or the masses think. He doesn't. If he thought about that, he would drop albums every year. Does he? No. So I think from a strategic standpoint, Drake did some cornball shit, and Drake is kind of a corny motherfucker. So, but great musician, but kind of a bit corny. So overall, and I thought about this Sunday or yesterday, this shit is corny. It's gotten bad. And it's really like it's almost gotten to a borderline. It's entertaining, but it's almost gotten to it where it's a borderline slap in the face to hip hop, to be perfectly honest with you. Especially when you think about some of the classic battles that we've witnessed in the last 25 to 30 years, where these were battles. There was no fun and games. Some of them got too serious, of course. Like some of them took it too far. I'm not even talking about, of course, we know what happened with Tupac and Biggie, but some are even, that the Pusha T Drake battle got serious. Like some of them was personal, but that's fine. It's cool. That's hip hop. This is not that. This right here, what we're witnessing right here, is not the essence of hip hop. It's not. I will sound like that old ass man on the get off my lawn, but because I'm in my 40s. But it is what it is. I gotta call shit. Like I said, you got Chris Brown, Kanye, Rick Ross, all dropping tracks that stand out, and that shouldn't be the case when we're dealing with Kanye West. We're dealing with Kendrick Lamar, and Drake. So of course, everybody's waiting on Kendrick. Hopefully, Drake doesn't say nothing, doesn't drop anything else until Kendrick drops again, so that we can kind of get just those two in the ring and just get to it from that standpoint. But hey, I don't need to hear anybody else dropping a diss track, to be honest with you. Speaking of hip hop classics or classic hip hop, a classic hip hop battle, of course, Nasir Jones was involved in probably the greatest battle, hip hop battle of all time, of course, back in 2001 with Jay Z, and that produced two classic albums in terms of the Blueprint with Jay Z, and of course, uh, Stillmatic with Nas. Of course, in 1994, April 19th, 1994 was the debut of what I regard as the greatest hip hop album of all time in terms of Illmatic. A 20-year-old Nas comes out, his debut album immediately takes the hip hop by storm. Um, Complex had him number one rapper of that year, 1994, with that album in terms of having the heavyweight belt. This album was just a masterpiece in terms of storytelling. I've never heard a better album as far as storytelling. The closest album I could think of right now probably be Scarface The Fix in '02. And even that is not on this level, but that's the closest thing in my lifetime that I've heard from a storytelling standpoint. You're talking about an album where, they're studying this album at Harvard. Okay. Here's what some artists, some known artists said about this album. Kendrick Lamar, Illmatic's the album from the '90s era where I was growing up. The stories he was telling was something I could relate to. Illmatic will always be number one. Also, you can hear the influence of my music. You can hear the influence of my storytelling. And during his acceptance speech in the Grammys, back in when he won Best Rap Album for Pimp a Butterfly, he gave Nas a shout out. With in terms of Illmatic. Busta Rhymes, what he was able to do lyrically completely shifted the climate of how the MC was supposed to rhyme. Ghostface Killer. The whole Ghostface said a lot, so I'm going to read part of it. Well, I'll read two parts of it. When I used to listen to Nas back in the days, it was like, oh shit, he murdered that. That forced me to get my pen game up and how can I try to catch how this nigga is catching it? The whole Illmatic album forced you to go ahead and do shit. Pharrell Williams, Illmatic is one of those transformative moments in hip hop. So we're talking about an album. Again, if you listen to this album and had never been or knew nothing about New York hip hop or just New York life in general, in the street life, this like you could listen to this album, close your eyes, and it could take you to New York, and it could take you to Queens, and it'd be like you would feel like you're watching a movie in your mind. That's how deep the storytelling was in this album. And you hear like there are very few artists, forget about rap, very few artists in any genre that can paint that type of picture, literally or figuratively, in any genre of artistry. And you talk about Nas's, you talk about Jay-Z's. These guys are amongst the greatest writers in the history of civilization. Period. Out of any, you put them up and put Nas up against any writer, book writer, or whatever, television writer. It doesn't matter. So this album, again, efficient, only like 45 minutes long. Production, legendary production. That's why the whole narrative of Nas's beats is just ridiculous to me. But anyway, and again, it is an album that there'll never be another Illmatic. Nas couldn't make another Illmatic. Those first albums Jay-Z, Reasonable Doubt, some of those debut albums, these guys were at a different points in their life, and they put everything into their first album because they knew if it didn't hit, that possibly could be their careers. And that was a time in the '90s where it wasn't a lot of money. It was not a lot of money in hip hop. Like rappers wasn't getting money like that in the early '90s. Like you had to go out there and produce quality work to make real money. It wasn't about hits. No, you had to go out and produce entire albums to make a name for yourself and build upon that and to have a great career. Nowadays, again, the game has changed. There's more money in rap than there's ever been before. And, that's another conversation for another day. But Nas put everything into this album, everything. So, again, one of the greatest, I think, the definitive hip hop album of the culture. One of the greatest albums, one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time, if not the greatest hip hop album of all time. I would encourage anyone to listen to it again. It's only 45 minutes. And again, it's not workout music. You have to be focused. You can't listen to it. You have to hear it. You have to hear this. You have to listen to it, not hear it, I should say. It's still a line from White Man Can't Jump. You have to listen to this. Not hearing it is not enough. Who won the week? NBA fans. If you're an NBA fan, the playoffs are here. Even if your team is not in it, it is an exciting time. We spoke earlier about the shift that's going on in the NBA with the young players coming up and kicking some of the old players' asses. There's no dominant team, so it has somewhat of like a March Madness feel to it. But we know who's probably. You get a sense of who's probably going to win the championship between probably Boston or Denver. But even with that said, there's no dominant team. So you have a lot of great storylines entering these playoffs, a lot of talented young stars entering these playoffs, some legacies that could be on the line with these playoffs. A lot of teams, going to have some big decisions if they lose in these playoffs. Clippers, Sixers, even the Lakers. So these are Milwaukee. So there's a lot going on with the playoffs. And that first weekend of the NBA playoffs is always exciting. My favorite sports weekend, without question. You're having 4 games a night that Saturday and Sunday, and certainly looking forward to watching these playoffs, watching the NBA playoffs progress. Finally, going to wrap it up. Real thoughts with Taylor Swift. So Taylor Swift came out with an album, dropped the album last week. And there was a song that she had called I Hate It Here. So the song, basically, I'll read you some of the lyrics from the song. I'll read you the lyrics. My friends used to play a game where we would pick a decade we wish we could live in instead of this. I said the 1830s, but without all the races and getting married off for the highest bid. Everyone looked down because it wasn't fun now. Seems like it was never fun, even fun back then. Nostalgia is a mind's trick. If I had been there, I hate it. It was freezing in the palace. So again, listen, I don't have a vivid, we clearly wasn't alive in the 1830s, but during the 1830s, there was clearly slavery. And of course, Taylor Swift tried to protect herself by saying, but without all the races. Of course, people are somewhat up in arms about her picking this particular time period for nostalgia's sake. I'm going to leave the race part alone. I don't know if Taylor Swift is a racist or not. That's low hanging fruit to me. That's a lazy take to me. I haven't heard anything that she had came out with before that would insinuate that she is racist. We don't know what someone's going on in someone's head or someone's heart for sure. I do know this, right? When you hear the phrase "I hate it here," like if I posted that on my social media, if someone posted that on their Instagram, you would think that something is wrong. You would wonder about that person's mental health. So hopefully Taylor Swift is okay, first of all. But second is, in the 1830s, there were a lot of diseases, pandemics. A lot of people were dying from diseases that obviously are curable now. I'm just like, when I think about nostalgia for myself, you think about my years in college or my years in elementary school in the 80s, and again, college, late 90s, early 2000s. I'm just confused by the choice of 1830. Taylor Swift is a millennial. Taylor Swift is 34 years old. Maybe she's a history buff. I don't know. Like, I don't know how versed she is in the history of this country. That would be a great interview question for her. But I'm curious on why she chose the 1830s in a real way. Like, I'm curious. Like, again, we're talking about a time where no cars. They had stage coaches. That's the time. What's that? The 19th century. Yeah, 1900s to be 20. So you want to live in the 19th century? Really? I don't. I'm frankly just dumbfounded. I don't get it. I don't. And obviously, it really has made me intrigued to listen to the album. Now, first of all, I'm going to eventually listen to the album based off this, but the album has 31 tracks and is over 2 hours long, 2 hours and 2 minutes to be exact. I'm not like, I have to break it up into like basically like 10 songs a day or something like that. I'm not listening to an entire album in one setting. That's just not in one listening. That's just not going in one day. It's not going to happen. But I'm a little curious on why she chose the 1830s. Again, I'm not going for the low hanging fruit. Oh, she must be a racist. Like, no. It's a little more nuanced and deeper than that. It's little like, no. This is just weird to me. It's strange. Like, I've never heard someone of that age say they want to go back to the 1800s, not 1970 or 1960 or 1950, like the 1830s. So I think hopefully Taylor Swift is okay, first of all. But secondly, I'm more curious than anything, to be honest with you. Because I don't know if was life popping in the 1830s. Of course, we don't. No one who's alive then is alive now, of course. But it honestly has me wanting to do more research on what the 1830s was like. To be perfectly honest with you, that's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast. Have a great rest of your evening. Enjoy the playoffs. Have a great rest of the week. I will talk to you later. I'm out.